Dokkan Fest TEQ Kefla and Kale originally released on October 5th of 2021. Now while on release this character was no way meta defining, they did end up aging pretty well into the 2022 Red Zone meta, with the ability to fuse into Kefla, provide a pretty huge 60% heal. Along with their stacking, they were able to do quite decently in that fight against Red Zone Broly. But as time passed on, they quickly aged, being an unfortunate another unit captured by the 2022 power creep, just like all the other late-end 2021 characters. However, they definitely did this character justice with their recent Extreme Z Awakening, released just a few days ago. TEQ Kefla and Kale are absolutely insane. And today we're going to be talking all about that. We're going to be breaking down their kit, talking about what makes them so good, looking at their performance in all these difficult stages, and just talking about how they made a TUREZA borderline top 10 in the game. For now, we are waiting until the next Dokkan Fest video, which will be in over a week from now. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and let me know what you think about TEQ Kefla. Let's hop right into it. Now to start things off, TEQ Kefla and Kale do lead the Bond of Friendship or Rapid Growth category for Key 3 and HP attack and defense plus 170%. That leader skill does have some decent characters on there, but you're not really going to be running this character as a leader, especially when we consider all the 200% and 220% leader skill options. There are just better places to go ahead and get the most use out of this Kefla and Kale. Now, this is where I usually would break down the passive skill, but I want to highlight the super attack effect first and foremost. The 12 key super attack Union Shot does greatly raise attack and defense and causes immense damage to enemy. Now, greatly raising attack and defense is a permanent 50% raise for the rest of battle, and this is not a super attack effect that they give very easily to these characters. I mean, to highlight some of the characters that have it: the Year 7 LR Super Saiyan Gods, the Year 7 LR Super Saiyan 4s, the Year 10s individually, once they, switch back and forth with their tag mechanic, do have different variants of greatly raising defense or greatly raising attack. As we continue on, we can see a lot of these top tier characters have it. Even the brand new Int Hit has permanent greatly raising attack and defense. But beyond that, there's not too many characters that really take advantage of this. Ever since the release of TEQ Ultimate Gohan, they got a little scared of this type of mechanic, and this character is luckily able to get it. Now, this really adds so much power to them, and we'll talk about why exactly right here. So, their passive skill, the Strength to Survive, provides them 200% attack and defense start of turn, to launch an additional attack that has a high chance to become a super attack, which is a 50% chance. A high chance to evade enemy's attack, which is also a 50% chance. Then for the first 4 turns from the character's entry turn, they have a 20% additional chance to evade enemy's attack. On top of this, for every single attack they perform, they get 40% attack and defense up to 160%. Now, if you may know, any attack performed during the attacking turn or when receiving an attack during the attacking turn, things like that, are considered a phase 2 buff. That means this buff multiplies on anything that activates at the start of turn. Furthermore, any effects you get from the super attack effect, which as we talked about earlier was a permanent 50% attack and defense, multiplies further on top of that. That's the essentials of Dokkan math, and with that, it ends up making some really big numbers even early on, which is absolutely crazy. 160% multiplicative on top of the 200% is crazy. Now, the best thing about this type of buff is once it's activated, it's permanently up for the rest of battle as well, which means that you're going to see the full effect of all that multiplication at the start of turn as if it was a start of turn effect, which makes things get a little crazy. Probably have some screenshot of a stupid defense number up right now. Beyond that, they do still have more of their passive, beyond the basics. If there is a Universe Survival Saga category ally attacking in the same turn, or a Universe Survival Saga category enemy, they get an additional 60% attack when attacking, and they launch an additional super attack that is a guaranteed stack guaranteed extra damage, really nice to see. Then, every time the character performs 3 or more attacks in battle, they gain another 20% chance to evade enemy's attack within the character's next attacking turn, up to 20%. Now that is to cap it up so they don't get to potentially 100% depending on how many additionals you have sometime. But this means on turn 3 of pretty much every fight, as long as you have a Universe Survival Saga ally, they are going to have a 90% chance to dodge, because they'll have the 50% high chance, the 20% for the first 4 turns, and the 20% from performing 3 or more attacks. And again, if we take a look here, they do 3 attacks guaranteed, counting their first initial attack, which means they can have that 90% chance to dodge against some of these really difficult bosses in battle hardened foes, especially. Like, think of Cell Max's AoE. These guys have a 90% chance to just completely dodge that. On top of having the stacking for long events, this character is designed really well to handle the most difficult content. And of course, that is not all, because as we talked about earlier, this is a fusing Kefla card. That is only the base form of Kefla and Kale. From the 6th turn from the start of battle, you are able to choose whether or not you want to fuse into Super Saiyan 2 Kefla, and if you do that, you get some upgrades onto this character. Now, first and foremost, I do want to confirm that you do lose the defensive stacking. Kefla's 12 key super attack, the Gigantic Blast, does greatly raise attack, greatly raise defense for the 1 turn, and causes immense damage. So Kefla will continue to stack that attack up, but she only raises defense for the 1 turn. Now, by the time you'll transform Kefla into these events, it's going to be when you need the extra damage, and by then you'll have more than enough defensive stacks to where this Kefla won't even have to worry about stacking defense anymore regardless. For her basic effects, she recovers 60% HP start of turn, which is a very huge amount. She gets 200% attack and defense start of turn, and then now she will launch 2 additional super attacks guaranteed, so no longer having to worry about what allies are rotation, or if you're facing an ally, or even hitting that 50% chance. She's just doing 2 additional super attacks. She'll have a great chance to evade enemies' attack, which is a 70% chance. Then she randomly changes key spheres of a certain type that are not TEQ key spheres into TEQ key spheres. So let's say you have TEQ key spheres and then a bunch of physicals scattered around. If the luck falls your way, those physical key spheres can change into TEQ, and you'll have a big glob of TEQ key spheres on the side. Now, this type of key sphere changing is not really particularly consistent, is the only thing. We would have much preferred something like rainbow orb changing here, but orb changing can always be helpful, and we'll talk about it later. This character does have a key sphere restriction that they do want to meet in certain situations. So when attacking, they get 200% attack, which is again a phase 2 buff. And when receiving an attack, they get 200% defense, which is another phase 2 buff. Now, the reason this works very well this way is because they do not have to attack to actually get the max amount of defense with the stacks that they would have gained. So essentially, Kefla is actually going to have more defense when she actually receives the attack compared to the base form, which is not something you're able to see start of turn. But essentially, whatever defense that TEQ Kefla has, you are basically going to triple it. If TEQ Kefla has 2 mil defense, that 200% raise will bring them up to 6 million defense. If they have 5 million defense, that defense raise will bring them up to 15 mil defense, which is a very huge multiplicative buff that we see other characters may get at times, such as the Dokkan Fest AGL Kid Goku, right? 200% when receiving an attack, especially on a stacker, seems to be the status quo now, and an EZA character like Kefla got it, which is really nice. Now from here, we can talk about the 6 or more key spheres obtained restriction. When you do receive 6 or more key spheres, tournament participants category allies get 30% attack, then an additional 30% defense for characters who will also belong to the Universe 6 category, and that is all when attacking. Now, the reason why this is really good is for 2 different things. Firstly, it is a when attacking buff. This means that it is, again, a phase 2 buff, but that's applied to the rest of the rotation if they fit this category restriction, which It's not very common to see a character provide a phase 2 type of buff like this, so this will make characters hit a lot harder than you would think with just a 30% attack buff, or defend a lot better with just a 30% defensive buff. The second thing is that tournament participants is a pretty wide range category, and I feel like there are a lot of characters who have been releasing recently to go ahead and fit that. Now, the only disadvantage to this is that you do want to get 6 key spheres, and it may not be a consistent thing, though there are plenty of top tier rainbow orb changers around right now, so it might not be the worst thing in the world. I guess another, negative could be that the Universe 6 category is the only team that gets the 30% defense, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. But from there, TEQ Kefla does look very, very strong, and she will, at the bare minimum, continue to stack attack. Keep in mind, I did again talk about earlier how the defense that you'll see start of turn is essentially multiplied into 3. However, she does also still greatly raise defense for the turn, so that defense will shoot even beyond that, even after she attacks. TEQ Kefla is just a very basic but good character that will work well with a lot of different teams. And again, the next section we'll talk about is the Linkset. But although this character doesn't have too much complexity to them, they're still able to very much dominate all the hardest content in the game. Now, in terms of Linkset, TEQ, Kefla, and Kale do have the Saiyan lineage, Saiyan warrior race, Battlefield Diva, Warriors of Universe 6, Tournament of Power, Prepared for Battle, and Fierce Battle. Again, an overall good link set. There are a lot of very common Saiyan links here, such as Prepared for Battle and Saiyan lineage. Hey, Saiyan Warrior Race, in fact, does also have a lot of characters that will have it, but best case scenario, this character is linked with the, Universe 6 Kefla or Kale, because they'll get Battlefield Diva, Warriors of Universe 6, and the Tournament of Power link. Now, if we take a look at some of the best linking partners, it pretty much is either the Universe 6 Saiyans or a fusion, and we'll talk about the fusions a bit, but for now, when it comes to the base form, their best linking partners are a character like TEQ Kefla, which could be decent in some certain events. The brand new LR Kefla and Kale, of course, is intended to be ran with this character. If you do have this character as well, STR Kefla's EZA can still be pretty decent in certain content and allow this character to get a lot of their different links off. I've even seen people run STR Kale as well. There are some pretty decent options for the Universe 6 characters right now, but the only top tier one I would say currently is the Kefla and Kale, just because, again, they're just a brand new LR that released very recently. Side note, it is very funny that I do think the new Kefla and Kale are not even as good as this TEQ Kefla, which is kind of hilarious. Now, once we fuse into Kefla, they are actually getting a little bit of a link change here. So the Saiyan lineage link becomes Super Saiyan, and the Saiyan warrior race link becomes Fused Fighter. They also do get the power bestowed by God link instead of Prepared for Battle. Now, losing Prepared for Battle is a very unfortunate thing and makes it a bit harder for them in terms of linkage with some of the Universe 6 girls, but it's not going to be the absolute worst thing in the world. They will still share a lot of key links with them, and as a TUR character, they don't really have to worry about key this much. But with this link set change, they're able to link a lot better with STR Kefla. In fact, sharing 7 links total with the STR Super Saiyan 2 Kefla. They will still share the same amount of 5 links with the Super Saiyan Kefla and a Super Saiyan 2 Kale tag character. On top of this, they will link a little better with some of the Year 10 fusions, such as the Vegito. They do share 4 links total, Super Saiyan, Fused Fighter, Power Bestowed by God, and Fierce Battle. With the new Gogeta, they'll share Super Saiyan, Fused Fighter, Fierce Battle, right? And some decent links here and there. While their links as Kefla, I would argue, is a little worse. It is still very viable for all the partners that they'll want to be included with, so that definitely gets a passing grade in my book. Now, TEQ Kefla and Kale are on a total of 17 category teams, which is quite a lot. However, I feel like there's not too many teams that will let them reach their full potential. I think the best team for them right now is definitely the Int Hit team, which is, Universe 6, Rapid Growth, and Accelerated Battle. You're able to get a very nice, healthy mixture of characters there, a bunch of the Universe 6 characters that the Kefla and Kale will link with, but you're also able to throw in TEQ Super Vegeta and AGL Super Gogeta, some of these other fusing characters to mix things around, and I think this is especially helpful in some of the longer content like Red Zone or Festival of Battles. However, there are still some other teams where I think this character is more than usable in. We could talk about the full power Super Saiyan 2 Gohan team. You're actually able to run TEQ Kefla there, which is a decent linking partner with this character, and maybe have some fun. The only thing is that there could be an issue because of a lack of a Rainbow Orb Changer that's very, very prominent on the team. So because of that, you may run into some certain key struggles with both TEQ Kefla and TEQ Kefla. Ideally getting the 6 key spheres, that is pretty important for them. You also do have the Blue Evolution Vegeta team, which is Universe Survival Saga 220%. Now this team is actually not bad, especially with the addition of this TEQ Kefla and Kale. Blue Evolution Vegeta is able to handle his own in pretty much every fight except for Red Zone, and he is a Rainbow Orb Changer, so he will be able to provide that consistent changing, not only for TEQ Kale and Kefla, but there is the, again, physical Super Saiyan 2 Kefla and Kale. There is TEQ Kefla for running her right. I think that team can work pretty nicely. Then of course you are able to just throw this character on either the Year 10 Fusions team. I would say ideally you could run her on the Gogeta team, and the reason for that is because the physical Kefla and Kale, which is one of their better linking partners again, does actually get a 220% on that team. So if you want to really use that physical Kefla and Kale, you can just put them together on a team, the AGL Gogeta team, and Kefla will still be more than good enough even on just a 170% leader skill. But then you could also consider the fact that AGL Gogeta has the active skill which will buff her for 54% attack and defense, which could lead to some very devastating numbers at the end of events, even if she's not getting the full boost. But beyond that, those are her best 220% teams I would personally recommend. Now there are some other teams you may be able to kind of test her out on, but I don't really think that many of them really will bring this character to the full potential outside of these 3 specifically. From here, we're going to talk about this character in the most difficult stages in the game and show some gameplay about how exactly these characters work there. Spoiler alert, they're going to be very good across all the content that's available because of how their passive is structured. Now, we're going to start things off with the Red Zone stages, of course, the Goku story and Vegeta story stages specifically that I find to be the most difficult. First and foremost, the Universe Survival Saga stage in the Goku story Red Zone. Now, the really nice thing about this stage is that they don't necessarily have to be run on a Universe 6 based team or Universe Survival Saga based team, because they will also get their guaranteed additional super when they're facing a Universe Survival Saga enemy, which is consisting of this entire stage. But I decided to run them on the Universe 6 kind of team anyways, just because it is their best linking partners regardless. Now, once we hop into things, I think early on this character can be caught if it's like, oh, a turn 1 super attack before they are able to do anything, and you have to put them in slot 1 for whatever reason. But that's a very niche scenario, and that's just a complete maybe as well. Once they get their attacks off, they are good to go, and they are literally not able to be hurt for the rest of the fight. Of course, this is also in consideration that you're going to keep them on rotation the entire time, but they are pretty much the best or second best character on the team, so you will be keeping them on the turn with another Kale Kefla character. Speaking of which, their best partners such as TEQ Kefla could actually be pretty viable in this fight. Physical Kefla and Kale, this is arguably their best fight as well, so they're looking really, really good here in this specific stage. Now, this character will have type disadvantage against the Int Jiren, but by that point, their stacking gets so high already that they're not even worried about him at all. Even if he locks them in slot 1 and for some reason they're good to go, right? And they won't usually be locked in slot 1 because of the fact that they are going to be on rotation. So they're likely going to be either locked in slot 2 or slot 3 if that is a thing that's going to happen. But they'll be perfectly fine, right? I mean, they are not going to be in any trouble at all. And by the time you get to the end with the AGL Jiren, you pretty much could just transform into Super Saiyan 2 Kefla and you're good to go. Now in these clips, we saw that Super Saiyan 2 Kefla was able to reach about, what, 2 million defense range, which again, since he gets these 200% defense when receiving an attack, that just shoots her up to an easy 6 million, which is more than enough to double-digit tank all of the Jiren super attack damage. On top of this, when she supers, she will also gain further defense, so like, she's not really in trouble at all. On top of that, she'll be type advantage against the AGL Jiren, so she's gonna end up doing a pretty significant amount of damage to him, even though she doesn't have built-in crits in her passive. At the very least, she's a tech character, she can get a lot of crit built in, and we could talk a little bit about hidden potential later, but ideally you do have a crit build on her is what I'm thinking. Now, she's all just really good for that fight. We could talk about the Blue Vegeta fight. I didn't actually take her in there, but she's going to be good there as well. Again, don't put her in slot 1, turn 1, but after that, she'll be perfectly fine to kind of move around, especially on that next turn, where she'll have the 90% chance to dodge. I'm pretty sure she'll be just fine. Now we can head into the Vegeta story stage, which there is the Universe Survival Saga stage specifically. Now this stage has a very similar design to the other one, but we do also want to keep in mind that Kefla wouldn't be type advantage at the end anymore, so she might not do as much damage compared to the other stage, but for the most part she just ends up doing the same thing as always. She's just such a fast, consistent stacker in these red zone stages that she's not really going to have any trouble by the end. I believe in one of the clips I got, they were able to basically double-digit tank the super attack from STR Jiren once they supered, which even pre-super attack they would be just fine. Along with that, the support that this character provides to other characters in rotation, such as the Super Saiyan 2 STR Kefla, for example, that 30% defense support when attacking really helps out to even where STR Kefla in a lot of these modern harder fights can comfortably tank some of these normal attacks for double-digit damage, which is really good, because then you won't have to worry about getting tagged by a normal and instantly dying, and you'll have a character, like her, have that 70% dodge. Both the final Jiren phases disable dodge, so this Kefla won't be able to take advantage of the 70% chance she has. Same with the STR Kefla. But for the most part, that TEQ Kefla is able to double-digit tank everything anyways, so the dodge disable literally doesn't even mean anything. We could talk about the Super Saiyan Blue Goku Stage 10 in the Vegeta story fight. The issue with that fight isn't even this character, but it's the characters around them that you want to use. Now, if you're just running a pure Saiyans team, this character will do just fine, but for the purposes of this video, I tried the Hits team and, the Kefla and Kale team, the physical LR, but the issue is that a lot of these characters are kind of dodge reliant early on. There's not a character that could really sit in slot 1 and hold things down. Especially, some of their best linking partners. STR Kefla is pretty much unusable on this stage. TEQ Kefla is pretty much unusable on this stage. You could run STR Kale as a potential option, but then it's like, okay, you might get stuck with the Kefla and Kale, like the TEQ one in slot 1, and that's just an issue. So whilst I do think that they themselves can work here, it's the characters around them that make them good that will cost you the run, which is very unfortunate, but at the bare minimum, if you're fine with them on a 170% team, you can just run like the AGL Gogeta team, the TEQ Vegito team, and they'll be perfectly fine there. Now we can move on into some of the battle hardened formidable foes stages, and I did go specifically in just stage 10, but they should be even better in stage 8 with the Universe Survival Saga enemies, because of the fact that they will have access to like TEQ Kefla, who's guaranteed dodging everything, right? But even in this stage, they are good to go, because again, once they get their attacks off, they are pretty much like extremely tanky, very viable in these fights on that first turn. But then when they come back on rotation, as we know, they will gain 20% additional chance to dodge, which means that they'll have a 90% chance to dodge on their second appearance if they're able to get those 3 attacks off, which is gonna happen. So with that in mind, we could really come to the conclusion that, let's say, Cell Max's AoEs, even the second phases of these Battle Hardened Foes fights, they'll have a 90% chance to dodge. And then once they get some extra stacks in there, they're going to be at like 3 to 4 mil defense range already. Like, they're going to be looking very, very tanky at that point. And that's just going to be very oppressive for these bosses. It's just, these bosses just don't have enough to actually hurt this character by how they're designed, because 90% dodge alone is just incredible, but they have enough defense to where even if they would get tagged by a super attack, in some situations they might just straight up live anyways, which is very funny. Now, again, it's really nice that they will have that dodge chance against the Cell Max and the AGO Broly phases, but we could also keep in mind that there are also type advantage there. So in a worst case scenario, they at least will take type advantage damage from the Cell Max AoE and the Broly AoE, which just makes them incredible for this fight, right? Just throw them on even as a floater and they will be perfectly safe. Really, really well designed for this fight as well, considering that they're just a stacking character. Like, at the end of the day, this character is just going to be a stack, 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 stack. They're not really doing anything beyond that. But the fact that they are also really good in short form content will be very nice for this character's aging process as well, because they'll be viable in a bunch of different types of fight rather than, oh, they're only really good in the super long fights, and if you take them out of those super long fights, they're very mediocre. In the event that we shift to, I don't know, fights that are again 4-5 turns, they won't really be impacted as much as characters like, I don't know, even AGO Kid Goku, who ideally is in a longer fight even though he has the extra reduction early on, or a character like Int Hit, for example, right? I think that this will really help them out for those kind of event changes that will likely happen eventually. On top of this, we do have Festival Battles. Now, duh, they're going to be really good at Festival Battles as a greatly stacking attack and defense character. Now, I unfortunately was not able to get to the end of the event just because of some bad RNG, and this is one thing we can talk about that's a negative for the character. They don't have built-in crits, so because of that, if they do miss their crits, it's just you're gonna feel it, especially in these phases where they can be type disadvantage, which is where I lost the Int Majin Buu phase. It just it is what it is. Unfortunately, was not able to get as far as I would have liked. Now, what we do have is some screenshots here by Mr. The Truth DT. The GOAT provided the screenshots actually in a chat I was in, and I'm like, I'm using this. We can see that defense stat is just like, at that point, like, they're at 25 mil defense basically, right? The thing is, Halvard, who does some Dokkan math calculations, did also let me know, hey, once this character gets to 25 mil defense and you could transform to Kefla, and they're pretty much able to double digit tank even tech Vegito's super attack. So that is very hard hitting super attack, as you see in the screen, and they're gonna be able to tank that, which is kind of crazy in its own. But also keep in mind that she has 70% chance to dodge anyways, so she didn't even need to necessarily have to double digit tank it. Even if you don't get to that point, you still have the 70% dodge chance, on top of the fact that Kefla will be doing some pretty significant damage herself. Ideally, you get crits in the Tech Vegito phase, but in that AGO Gogeta phase, she's gonna melt that guy. He's gonna be pretty demolished. So, safe to say Tech Kefla, surprise, is really good in Festival Battles as well. And that is important in my books, just because we don't know if we will or will not get an event like this. But it's the fact that it is one of the harder fights right now, and I want to consider all 3 of these type of phases or type of fights, specifically the Red Zone, the Festival, and then of course the Battle Hardened Foes, as equals rather than anything. But while I won't really take too much away from a character if they're not good in Festival, considering the limited options we have, it is very good to see a character that will be valuable in there, especially again as an Extreme Z Awakening character. This character came out in 2021, man. It's very good to see that they are actually viable in one of the harder fights in the game. Now, I did say we would talk about hidden potential. I don't really think I need to go too deep into hidden potential as I did previously. In terms of dupes, this character, as a stacking character by their nature, will of course benefit from having dupes, but it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't have them, because by technicality, the less damage you do could theoretically lead to more stacks if you plan your rotations out, get lucky, things like that. So you could just allow things to even out in those regards, especially in a super long fight. Even the Red Zone Zerians can take a while, but of course Festival of Battles. On top of that, in their Battle Hardened Formidable Foes fights, they are pretty much going to be reliant on the 90% dodge for the big supers, and they'll be able to tank normals regardless. So that is one thing you could say. Not really a dupe reliant character in terms of defense, but when it comes to offense, it is preferred that they will have probably 2 dupes, just because they don't have any built-in critical hits, which means that you're kind of forced to build in them full crit in that regard, just so you're able to get past some of these bosses' damage thresholds. And these bosses have a lot of HP now, so damage is more important than ever, arguably. On top of this, consistent damage would be very nice, so giving them like a nice 25 plus crit even, I think will really help even things out. And since they have so much dodge and additional anyways, it's not the biggest deal that you're missing out on potentially more of those. So that's a good thing at the bare minimum. It did say you're kind of pigeonholed into doing crit, but realistically it is going to be the best option with how this character is designed anyways. So even if this character had like a high chance to crit, you could argue crit would be the best build regardless, over even like extra dodge and things like that, right? But this character is able to do just fine. In terms of equipment, I would go for a defense with the bronze, just because having that extra base defense will always be useful for a stacking character. But for the silver and the gold slots, I would go for a crit slash additional, or crit slash dodge, just something where you're able to get a lot of critical hit in, just because of how it is the one thing that I feel like the character is really lacking. So to kind of make sure they're covering all aspects, giving them a lot of that extra crit chance, it will be useful. You can even go for like crit attack and get some slightly higher attack stats. Could also be very viable, depends on how you want to build the character at the end of the day, but these are my personal best recommendations. Now, as we're gonna wrap up things here, TEQ Kefla and Kale are just able to cover every aspect that you want from like just a good on rotation character. With the amount of defense that they end up getting, they're perfectly safe for you. They have a fail safe with the dodge mechanic, can get up to 70% dodge in a lot of scenarios. On top of this, Super Saiyan 2 Kefla also does provide some support depending on the team and the orbs that you grab with her, so she's doing quite a bit. And in some scenarios, if you get lucky with your critical hits, she's able to do some pretty significant damage to some of these bosses, which is really, really good too. Great Linkset, so many teams that they could be useful on just because of how basic their kit is. This character is just very easy to use, and it's just really nice to see. Now, the only real negative I would say is, I guess, that they don't have the crit. Again, it's something that I'm bringing up a lot because it is the one thing that they're missing, and beyond that, they're kind of a perfect character almost. I mean, obviously they're not going to be like a TEQ Vegito, just like massacre, like disgusting broken character like that, but they are very oppressive, and I would argue they are a top 10 character candidate for this game right now, which is really crazy considering that they are an EZA character. I mean, they're just better right now than the physical Kefla and Kale that just came out, which is a brand new summonable LR, and this is just an EZA character. So it almost makes you question if this was even intentional and they just messed up. But who knows, even if it was a mistake, we're more than happy to take that mistake. So let me know what you guys are thinking about TEQ, Kefla, and Kale. Hope this helped you guys out in terms of building for them or understanding why they're as good as they are. And of course, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.